Mr. Becerril. Okay. Annex, if we could have Christopher Becerril, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Calling cause number 2022-0D03834, State of Texas versus Christopher Becerril. May I have announcements, please?
Eliana Elizalde for the state. State is ready.
Daniel Lavelar standing in for Justin Underwood, who represents Christopher Becerril, Your Honor.
Get him here. Mr. Becerril? Mr. Perez? Okay, just making sure. We already had announcements from the attorneys on your case. We were originally scheduled for a plea hearing, but Mr. Underwood filed a motion to withdraw. I believe it was yesterday. Mr. Avalar?
That's correct, Judge. The basis or the grounds of that motion, Your Honor, is a failure to comply with a contractual obligation. This case has been pending since May of 21, Judge, where we were initially contracted. And then nothing happened in terms of that obligation until earlier this year. And even then it was short, Judge. So we are therefore requesting the court to grant our motion to withdraw, Your Honor.
Mr. Becerril, let me see. Since when have you were indicted in September of 2022? Let me see. It looks like you got picked up in April and you've been in custody since April 10th. Okay, so your attorney's wanting to withdraw because there's not been a fulfillment, I guess, on whatever contractual obligations. I did look up initially, you had qualified for a court-appointed attorney, but chose to hire your own. What are you wanting to do at this point if I allow them to withdraw?
Well, I already spoke to my family and they were gonna pay right now. Just told them right now, I didn't know about it. I thought my wife was the one taking care of it. Because I'm the one, with all responsibility out there, and I got a car payments and my house payment, you know, so I know it's my fault, but I was the only one working, and they already know about it and they're gonna take care of it.
Mr. Avalar? I mean, I don't have this set for anything, so I was prepared that if they were still asking to withdraw, to appoint you the public defender's office. But if you're intending to either try and work something out with their firm or possibly seek another attorney, what I need to do is I need to get this on track because I see that you had a couple of settings, but I don't know if we've ever had a trial setting, and you're in custody. So we went from a final hearing plea deadline. You would have had a trial at the beginning of May to now we were at a plea, and now things are kind of stalled. And with you being in custody, I don't like to leave you without a trial date. So what was the last offer on this case?
I defer.
Yes.
5 deferred?
Yeah.
And that is what you had agreed to, Mr. Becerril?
Well, not really.
Okay, so then I don't really want to know much more. Mr. Avalar, I just need to know, I can, if something's going to be worked out, I'm happy to reset you for 1 week on the motion to withdraw if you're inclined to stay on, or your office is. If not, I don't want to waste any time.
We'd love to, Judge, but it's 3 o'clock. I don't know if there's a holdup or what's going on. There's a setting today. If the court wants to reset a week, but whatever the court wants to do.
I'm going to reset it for 1 week. 1 week, the motion to withdraw. If at that point, honestly, I don't need to know a whole lot. If he has not fulfilled his obligations with you all, I really just need to know that. And Mr. Becerril, know that obviously it's your choice. If you want to hire, if you don't repair things with Mr. Underwood's office and you still want to hire your own attorney, obviously that's your choice, but I'm prepared to appoint you an attorney if you need one, because I need to get your case back on track.
No, they'll take care of it right now.
We're going to reset you for 1 week, Mr. Avalar. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Becerril. Okay. Who's next?
Bottom up, page 19, Judge.
Uh-huh.
Annex, may we have Aguilera, Soshi?
Yes, sir. Yellow one.
Hello. Ms. Butterworth, are you there?
I am, Judge. I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave my camera off. I've got to take my daughter to a doctor's appointment super
No worries.
quickly.
Let's go ahead.
In cause number 2022-0D05523, State of Texas versus Soshi Alejandra Aguilera. Announcement of council, please.
Eliana Elizalde for the state. State is ready.
And Denise Butterworth on behalf of Miss Aguilera.
Okay, Ms. Aguilera is appearing from the jail annex. I believe we're just set for a status conference. I did look, I feel like we had this set because I wanted to find out what was happening with the outstanding P-file cases, and I had not seen any movement.
I did send an email, Your Honor, to you and to opposing counsel that I had heard back from intake. At that time, we were requesting one of the cases be entered, and the plan is to file them as a continuous. However, I am checking as of today, it still hasn't been indicted.
Correct, that's what I saw. So, I mean, she's on track. We had the bond hearing last time. I mean, she's on track in terms of having trial settings. Ms. Butterworth, anything? I mean, we have our final judges and our jury trial at the end of the month.
What I'm waiting for, Judge, and I'm hoping that at some point we might even get a continuance of the jury trial setting, because I'm waiting for that indictment to see if we can resolve both cases through one
Right.
recommendation.
Ms.
So I'm
Elizalde, do we
hoping
have
that
a-
indictment can be done.
Yeah, I mean, we're really just waiting on your office and whoever's supposed to be presenting, I guess, the other case.
I will send a follow-up to see when we expect it to go, because the last thing I had was that it was already in the office.
Mhm.
Once I have an update on that, I will email you both the court and opposing counsel like I did the last time.
Hey,
To date. But yes, that was the plan, continuous, and we had them both. They just needed to be entered, but I don't see any new notes on them, Judge.
And in true transparency, Ms. Elizalde, and for the court, I don't think we'll be ready for trial at the end of this trial setting. And I'm hoping for at least one continuance that would allow us a little bit more time to negotiate the possibility of resolving both of these cases.
correct. Feel free to file your motion at any time, even if it were indicted, tomorrow. Although I think I remember when I was trying to look at those outstanding cases, I think I read the complaint affidavits. But in any event, even though they seem simple, you're going to need time to prepare. Certainly, I would imagine you want to readdress the bond, but in any event, we're coming back in a week. So let's see.
Thank you, Judge.
Take care.
All
Thank
right, may I be excused?
You may. Thank you, Ms. Aguilera.
Thank
Who's
you.
next?
Page 22, Judge.
Yeah.
Annex, may we have Perez?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
In cause number 2021-0D02039, State of Texas versus Gillian Perez. Announcement of council, please.
Eliana Elizalde for the state. State is ready.
And Joseph Vasquez representing Mr. Perez, and we're ready.
Mr. Perez is appearing from the jail annex. We are here for a pre-revo. I feel like you were recently appointed. Yep, you were recently appointed, and we gave you a little bit of time, Mr. Vasquez. I read the case summary. I mean, I'm kind of wondering, he ultimately pled to a misdemeanor. Does he just want to do 365 days county?
Well, Judge, we're hoping to negotiate a little less time, but yes, we'll plead true. And he's been in since February 21st. We were hoping for time served, but if you they want to, I think they're getting 2 for 1 right now. So even with the year, it would be 6 months. But if you just want to send me the revocation package, or if we can sign it in court, Judge, however you want to do it, we can get it done.
Ms. Elizalde, I'm at 365. I mean, he got the break at the plea and then just didn't do a whole heck of a lot. So I'm at 365. Ms. Elizalde, if you will send over the plea paperwork, we can schedule it for June 20th at 3 p.m.
Okay, I will send steps and waivers on 365.
Okay, we'll get them to
We'll be
you.
ready, Judge.
Thank you very much. Please send your paperwork ahead of time because we're going to be a little busy here in the next few weeks.
Okay, I'll get it done.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perez. Who's next?
Page 23, Judge.
Mhm.
Annex, may we have Ponce?
Yes, sir.
You guys have new backgrounds. Nice.
No, good, put on your mask, we should be clear.
In cause number 2023-0D02486, State of Texas versus Luis Fernando Ponce. Announcement of council, please.
Preston Munson for the stage ready, Your Honor.
Joe Rosales here on behalf of Mr. Ponce, ready?
Mr. Ponce is appearing from the jail annex. We're scheduled for a bond hearing. Mr. Rosales, you may proceed.
I'm sorry, Judge Mike, I thought my phone was. Yes, Your Honor. Mike, I have not had much of an opportunity to speak to my client. I'd like to be able to ask him a couple of questions if I could.
Okay, under oath, Mr. Ponce, would you raise your right hand? Sir, do you swear or affirm that any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
I swear any testimony, what?
That any testimony you provide will be the truth and the whole truth?
Any testimony I prove is the truth.
Sir, do you need the assistance of an interpreter? You can put your hand down. Or do you understand English well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all righty. Go ahead, Mr. Rosales.
Thank you. Mr. Ponce, you're an American citizen, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you do not have any criminal history, is that also correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ponce, your bond, how much is your bond scheduled at?
AK with the 10%, 8,000.
Okay,
I have him
do you
at
have a job?
75 I have him at 75,000, Mr. Rosales.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you have a job, Mr. Ponce?
Yes, I was working on Tacos de Buco.
And would you have a job waiting for you when you got back?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Do you have family in El Paso?
Yes, sir. My
And
uncle.
who resides in El Paso?
Who what?
What family members do you have in El Paso?
Uncles. My aunt.
Do you live?
Yes,
And where do your parents live?
in Juarez.
Do you have any connection with your parents, or do you live with your parents?
Yes, I always call to them.
Are you living in El Paso, or were you living in El Paso before you got arrested?
Yes, sir.
And who are you living with?
With my uncle and my aunt.
And would you be able to go back and live with them again if you were able to bond out of jail?
Yes, sir.
And now, do you have an intention of dealing with this case and coming to court if the court calls you to come?
Yes,
The court is probably going to prohibit you if the court releases you from going to Mexico. Would you abide by that instruction of the court?
yes, sir.
Do you have any children?
No,
And are you married?
no.
Are you asking the court to set a PR bond so that you could be released and help me work with you on resolving this case?
Yes, sir.
That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Munson, do you have any questions?
No,
I
ma'am.
have no questions for this witness.
Thank you very much. All right. Anything else, Mr. Rosales?
No, nothing other than to ask the court if the court would set his bond at whatever amount of PR bond the court would wish to set it with whatever conditions. My client doesn't have a criminal history. He's probably not going to be giving the court any trouble in fleeing because he has a job here and he has his residence here in El Paso. He is an American citizen and he has no reason not to be here. I've only started working with Mr. Munson on negotiating this case. So we have a bit of a ways to go. So that's what I would be asking the court.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rosales, did you say your client, he is a citizen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Munson?
I think the bond set fairly reasonably considering the circumstances in this case. This was a case where he allegedly was evading at 95 miles per hour and most considerably running stop signs and red lights through a school zone at where at one point he did pass a school bus. Again, going around 95 miles per hour during early morning, around 6, 7 in the morning. He inside the vehicle, there were 10 undocumented non-citizens. It just, while he has no history, it's the facts in this case that's concerning to me. And then the lack of major contacts, or I guess more contacts with Mexico, concerns me as well, as if he may not show at one time.
Well, if I could just say, Your Honor, my client has never been in trouble before, and so him panicking probably shouldn't be too surprising. And he has told me as much, that he did panic when he saw that, he might be getting in trouble. And I would just point out, I've seen lower bonds in murder cases than this bond. I mean, I think this is an exorbitant bond for one offense. And true enough, that he was alleged to have been trying to bring in more than one person from Mexico. But I mean, that's comparable to many other cases like the ones that you have seen. And so, I mean, I think the issue is whether or not my client wants to come to court and deal with these charges. And I've been told by him that he does. And so I just think the bond is too high. He has no chance of making this bond.
So he has no resources. It would have to be a straight PR bond. Is that right, Mr. Rosales, or he has some resources?
I believe so. He works at Tacos Don Cuco, Your Honor. He doesn't make much money at all.
Okay, tell me a little bit, looking at the bond, it's at 75,000, but when it went through the jail magistrate, that evading got a $50,000 bond, and it was a bond reduction was denied already in the jail magistrate. What kind of evading are we talking about? Like it starts.
As I understand it, he was.
Let me ask Mr. Munson, where does it start and where does it end? What are we talking?
It starts on I-10 just around downtown. I think right before you get to downtown, if you're heading from west to east. And then at one point he gets off at Geronimo exit, goes through the lower valley area around Alameda, and he ultimately stays around circling the neighborhoods in that area and stops at, I believe it was the car became disabled at Paisano and Concepcion.
Was there an accident? You said he was disabled?
Yeah, so but it wasn't with an accident with any other vehicle.
So what did he run into? Allegedly.
Well, it states that the Ford became disabled and stopped. So I don't know if it was a collision or if it was I guess the motor overran.
There's mention in the report about the weight of the vehicle, that it was heavy because of one of the passengers.
Understood.
And
Okay.
Judge, to that, I would only say I've seen a lot of evading cases, and I've never seen a bond this high on an evading case either. I mean, there are murder cases where the bonds are $25,000. I mean, I just think it's an exorbitant bond. And so anyhow, that's all I've got to say.
I mean, my question, because he's a citizen, I did have questions as to why the bond, especially on the evading, was so high. The smuggling only had 25,000, but the bond on the evading. So that's why I was asking if there were some, we've seen in the news, a lot of these smuggling cases where there's car accidents, things like that. So I didn't know if it was one that was particularly extensive or, well, okay. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
I'm going to reduce the bond, but I don't know that it's one that your client can make. It's going to be a $40,000 split bond, 20,000 cash surety, 20,000 PR. He is to report monthly, use no illegal drug or alcohol, curfew 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. may not leave El Paso County without court permission or change his place of residence without court permission. Commit no new offenses. This is fairly new, I guess, to the court. Looks like it just got indicted here in May, and he doesn't have a jury trial until December. We're not even at arraignment yet, although I see we already have our waiver in. Is there already a rec in this case, Mr. Munson?
There is, Your Honor, right now it's 10 TDC, considering the circumstances and the evading part of it. But once I review the video, we're still waiting for the media on that. We'll consider the changing that rec.
Mr. Rosales, obviously we're at a very early stage here. I don't have a problem if you want to re-urge any request for bond reduction. You know, as we get to the trial date or at any of these settings, just let us know if you need to readdress the
I may do that, Your Honor. I don't know how long it's going to take Mr. Munson to get back to me, so yes, I may do that.
Okay,
But thank you for that.
thank you very much. All right, who's next?
Page 24, Judge. Alex, may we have Tarin? David Tarin.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. All right, let's go.
Because number 2022-0D04719 and 2022-0D03238 and 2022-0D03572 and 2020-0D05125 and 2022-0D05573 and 2023-0D02136, State of Texas versus David Tarin. Announcement of council, please.
Liliana Elizalde for the state is ready.
Oh, Your Honor, Manuel Parra from Mr. Tarin.
And Mr. Tarin is appearing remotely. All of these cases are set for bond hearings. Mr. Parra, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, we are holding this bond hearing leading to the June 16th trial settings. I believe all of his cases that are not probation cases are set for that day. However, the reason we're requesting a hearing on this matter is, one, in anticipation of not more than one case going to trial on the 16th. And so that would still leave the other cases, Judge, whose bonds I would like addressed. Mr. Tarin is going on 1 year, Judge, of being in custody. He was in custody as of August 10th, 2022. We have had some bond hearings in this matter. However, Judge, my client is unable to afford the bond as said. In cause number 3238, I have it set at 100,000 cash or surety. And cause number ending 5573, I have it at 50,000, Your Honor. 3572, I have it at 250,000, Judge. And finally, in 2136, I have it at 5,000, Your Honor. And again, he's unable to post any of this. Your Honor might recall that at some point, given his family's indigence, Your Honor, the court had to appoint me as to his other cases, even though they had originally retained on one. And it remains true, Judge, that they are unable to post any kind of a bond. So even if we do have a trial on one of the cases on the 16th, Judge, he would continue to be held on all the others. For that reason, I ask that you consider a bond reduction in each of these cases. Your Honor, my client is about 20 years old. I believe he turns 21 at the end of this year. He was born in El Paso, is a U.S. citizen, has lived in El Paso all of his life, Judge. Went up to the 10th grade in Isleta High School. Was most recently employed at Speaking Rock, Judge. I know it's been such a long time, but according to his family, he should still expect employment there, which suggests to me that he had been doing a good job. He does not have any children, however, does reside with his family, specifically his parents, Your Honor. That address is 7311 Alameda, apartment B. Specifically, it's with David and Sandra Tarin. Your Honor, it's my understanding that he also helps within the Isleta tribe down at Isleta del Sur Pueblo. If he's not able to work over at Speaking Rock, it's my understanding that they would help him gain some other kind of employment. He does have his family and specifically most closely his parents, Your Honor, to offer support and hopefully a network of support going forward.
Let me ask really quick, Ms. Welch, maybe you can help me here. On 4719, is he not booked on that case right now?
Correct, he's not being held on that case. But I do show, I was looking into it, his surety bond was revoked. I don't know why he's not being held on it at the jail.
So we need to get him booked on 4719. And then is 5125 still a no bond?
That's what I'm showing, Your Honor.
And he's on,
I'm checking too, Judge. Correct, it's still showing as a no bond.
that's very strange. Are there any cases that are not reflected on this docket for Mr. Tarin that are felonies? Let me see. I see misdemeanors. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Why do we have an extra case? Bueno, okay. The 2136, that one's at 5,000. Is that right?
Correct, Judge.
Okay. All right. So this one especially, let me go back. Sorry, I'm just trying to sit through all these cases. Of 6. Okay. All right, Miss Elizalde. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Parra, were you finished?
Your Honor, just requesting that, I know we're not able to come down on PR bonds as well, Judge, but perhaps some kind of a split bond that would allow for his release. Again, he has been in custody for 2 months shy of a year.
All right, Miss Elizalde, go ahead.
Judge, the state would object to a bond reduction or modification. We believe that the defendant poses a danger to the community. He was already on probation. And just briefly, as it relates to 3238, we have the victims who were at McDonald's. These were students. He hears one of the males that was with the defendant say, "Give me your shit." The victim ignores him, and one of the males goes to his neck and rips the necklaces, and he feels what he believes to be a gun, and the witness sees a gun. And so as to 4719, we have a similar fact pattern where there's a student going to the gym, and the defendant approaches the student and his friend and says, "Do you want to fight?" They say no. The defendant then punches the victim, the student. There's visible injuries. And at some point, the defendant pulls out a knife and places the knife is collected from a witness who was at the scene, and the victim at the time was 14. As to cause ending in 3572, officers were dispatched again to Isleta in reference to an aggravated robbery. The victim, again, was just walking by the car. 6 people approach him. The victim is then assaulted by them, who claim to be members of LVK. So there's some gang affiliation, certainly alleged in one of the cases. And the defendant is the victim. So that's on 3572. And the defendants were all yelling, "Don't."
Sorry. Said the defendant something to victim, and I didn't catch that word.
So I didn't say it. The defendants were yelling, "Don't F with LVK." And then we have 5573, and officers are dispatched in reference to a burglary of habitation, broken windows, and involved others. She believes that it was her brother. There's a video showing the vehicle in the middle of the roadway with the muzzle flashing coming out of the driver's window. The defendant is arrested and was allowed to call the father for medication. On speaker, father asked if he was arrested for shooting at his sister. Defendant says no, something else. And Your Honor, there was search warrants related to these cases where necklaces were found that relate back to the first incident that I mentioned. Weapons were found. And out of that search, there was also another case, 2136, that resulted in a state jail felony possession for cocaine. His history, of course, the court is well aware of the probation case. We have a burglary of vehicles. I believe that was dismissed. And assault family violence as well, that was dismissed. Your Honor, we believe, let's see, the commission of the crime, the criminal acts alleged occur between April 25th of 2022 all the way up to August 9th, 2022. I believe he was booked August 10th, either that or August 31st. It looks really weird on my end. But essentially, we have an individual who has shown the court that he's going to commit crimes. He is a danger to the community. These are not, he's facing F1s. And those bonds reflect the danger that he represents to the community. We are set for trial on 6/16. And so respectfully, Your Honor, for the protection of our victims and the community at large, and based on the seriousness of these offenses and the strength of the cases, we would ask that the court deny bond modification as to the new cases and defer on the probation case.
And Your Honor, one thing that has become clear to me is that he does have issues with other students at the school. However, I think it doesn't go much beyond that. It's my understanding that there's been some bad blood between him, or rather at least a friend of his, if not a group of friends of his, and another group at the school. However, Judge, I do find it out that we have something occurring outside of McDonald's with not so much as any kind of surveillance for witnesses outside of the two complaining witnesses who are saying this is what happened. Now, with respect to the chain that's allegedly taken, Judge, I have had members of Mr. Tarin's family come forward and say, this was our chain. This was the chain that was in the family a while ago. They did show me pictures at the time, of course, expecting that Your Honor would want a better predicate leading to trial. They have requested original copies, Judge, and some more proof that it was in fact in their possession prior to these cases. It's my understanding Ms. Elizalde might be bringing that up in conversation with the complaining witnesses and pre-trialing her case. However, Judge, again, it really doesn't go much beyond a couple of kids who might have issues with my client are saying something happened, and beyond that, no witnesses, no surveillance. I would submit to Your Honor that it's possible that these guys are just trying to make a personal problem as large as they can. I don't, however, believe, Your Honor, that he's any kind of a threat to society, let alone a continued one, given how long he's been in custody.
All right, so a couple of things. 5125 needs a bond. And I want to make sure that he's booked on 4719. Ms. Welch, so did he ever post that bond? I forgot what you said about 4719.
So it looks like the surety bond was posted, however, it got revoked.
Got it. And so he's in custody. Maybe that post dated him being in custody. Is that what happened? Let me go back to that case. 4719.
I think it was due to his being in custody as of August, Judge.
Right. And so he needs to get booked on it though, because he's not, I don't know that he's accumulating time. So we'll have to figure that one out. So that bond, we'll just deal with that one separately. The bond on 5125 will be 100,000. The request to reduce bond on the remaining cases are respectfully denied. I do want to take this opportunity to discuss with you all because we have our final hearing deadline on Tuesday. And then if I'm not mistaken, are these all only set for Friday? No, there's no Thursday jury selection, right?
No, they're just set for Friday, Judge.
Okay, and let me check one additional thing. So I want to know what cases, I mean, There's so many.
Right, Judge.
Which one are we
I
gonna
know.
try?
Judge, my
Ms. Sala and I were discussing this with the judge. Go ahead, Ms. Sala.
thank you. So it looks like the oldest case, which is what the state would be requesting the court to move forward on, is a cause ending in 3238.
So
That
the
is-
ag robbery?
That's the oldest cause.
Okay. I can tell you this for certain, Mr. Parra, on the bonds, once we get past whatever, the June 16 trial is, any reason why we can't go forward on the ag robbery?
Based on my conversation with the state yesterday, Judge, I don't believe so.
Okay, so we're good to go on that one?
I expect so.
Okay. I just want to go over a few of those things in the event we don't have a lot of time on the final hearing plea deadline. Let me ask, has there been a rec in all of these cases?
Yes, Judge, the recommendation has been 5 TDC, which is the minimum for some of the charges. I do plan to withdraw that recommendation. I will give a reasonable timeframe for opposing counsel to have any final conversations related to that recommendation should they wish to take it. We had briefly some TDC conversations, but my understanding is that they're not asking for TDC, which, considering the amount of cases he has and the fact that he will become probation ineligible as we go forward through these trials, the state's just not in a position to consider probation. He's also served close to 300 or just 2 months shy of a year.
So we need to do one thing. Okay, I just wanted to know, and that once you said it, I think I remembered that being the rec. We need to change, though, the final hearing plea deadline on Tuesday to 3 p.m. That's the only thing I can see. The only reason I'm making some changes, Mr. Parra, is it looks like we will be in trial. So I want to make sure we can address this fully if we need to hammer out any last minute details before we go on Friday. I was just taking a second to look at the calendar for that trial date. I see a special setting, but that individual is not in custody. Let me see. That individual is not in custody, first of all. There is a civil case. I don't expect that to go. We'll see. Just at a glance, I don't see any reason why you all are not our special setting. Okay, so just so you know, in case we don't get enough time to chat next week.
Understood, Judge. And if I may, Your Honor, with respect to the offer, for example, if in discussing the fact that it's a minimum of 5 years to, TDC, as alleged, Judge, in the aggravated robbery, again, going back to the fact that my client's family is claiming this chain was in their possession, belonged to them before this incident ever took place. If the chain is really the only thing that's going us to the alleged underlying theft or attempted theft, I don't see why at most we'd be entertaining anything outside of a Class A misdemeanor assault plea. Now, if that were on the table, of course, I think that's something that, at least in this case, would allow us to avoid jury trial. And judging from Ms. Eliza's reaction, Judge, it's going to be a trial.
Just for an update, we have photos comparing both. We're trying to do our best to upload as soon as possible, but it's fairly clear to me that it's the victim's chain. And these are all different victims. None of the victims are related to each other. So we would be going one by one on each of these cases. If there's no global rec, then that's where we're at.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that's going to be for the jury to figure out. And as we go through, if recs change, reconsideration of bond, things of that nature, we're certainly going to have to spend a little bit of time in once we get past this one, is if we continue to go to trial, to make sure we set them. The court's calendar is really, really crazy right now, but we'll get him through because he's in custody. So we'll start with the 16th. Okay, are we in Commissioner's Court, Mr. Marufo? Or where are we?
Yes, Judge, we are. Commissioner's
Okay,
Court.
just FYI. Okay.
Understood.
Monday. Was that
No,
Monday?
thank you, Judge.
Oh, okay. Thanks, guys.
Submit
See you
on
next
anything.
week.
Okay.
Take
All right,
care.
Judge. Thank you.
Miss Elizalde, her reactions. It's great. Thank you, Mr. Tarin. Who's next?
Page 21, Judge. Annex, may we have Miller?
Yes, sir.
It's the last one.
Yes.
It is?
Yes. In cause number 2022-0D03762, State of Texas versus Victor Manuel Miller. Announcement of council, please.
Eliana Elizalde for the state is ready.
Rick Huffman, on behalf of Mr. Miller, we are ready.
Mr. Miller is appearing from the jail annex. It looks like we did have our TAP assessment on June 1st, which is why I think we just did a quick reset. Meets criteria for cannabis use disorder, moderate, but they feel that he's minimizing or withholding information. Supportive outpatient is recommended, but he needs to be closely monitored with testing because of the potential for continued use. Miss Carla. Yeah. Yes, I remember Mr. Miller. Well, let me ask, Miss Elizalde, what do you think?
I don't think outpatient is the way to go based on the fact that he's not even owning up to the fact that he has a problem. I'm an inpatient or revoke. I will say I do not have a violation notice yet.
Oh, yeah, we definitely need that. Mr. Huffman, have you had a chance to talk with Mr. Miller? See what he wants to do?
I've spoken with him, Judge. Your Honor, he was having some trouble at home and with some depression, the type that would kind of prevent him from getting out of bed and doing the things that he needed to do. But I think that, well, I think he's been scared straight. Obviously we're at the mercy of the court, but we would be open to maybe some ACOP days, some possible outpatient treatment, maybe a placement on the mental health caseload with some substance abuse treatment. He is working. It's at a Gordita place on Mayside. I forget what the name of the Gordita place is called. Gordita Bueno. Judge, I don't believe there are any new offenses. He's just been put on probation, and he's a young man. Judge, I hope he understands now that he needs to do what he needs to do, or else he's going to get in trouble. But that's
he's on straight, right?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
I mean, Mr. Miller, do you really want to do probation? Pretty much everything you've done has told me you don't.
Yes, I wanna do probation again. I apologize about not reporting or anything, but I already talked to my lawyer and I talked to him, and I know if I messed up again, I'm gonna go to prison, which I don't want to. I was in depression with my family, with my mom, and I know it's my responsibility to report to my probation, and if you will let me do it again, I'm gonna do all my best and to report and be there in time.
What about your drug use?
Yeah, I can the test. I can go and do my test, alcohol test, and just, like I said, I apologize about not going to my appointments, which is my responsibility to go and do it because I'm the one I'm in probation.
Miss Carla, we had someone earlier today that had somewhat of an intensive outpatient for Aliviane. Is that something that, based on what we've looked at thus far, Mr. Miller, that would be suited for him, or is that to address other concerns?
I can find out, Your Honor. I know the one from earlier was a female. I don't know if there's any major difference between the male Aliviane versus the female Aliviane, but I can look into it, Your Honor. and see if there's a way of screening that case, or if the case could be modified out there.
Mhm.
I know, as per an email with his probation officer regarding further screening, the issue has been that, well, just like the top assessment results, there's really not much detail going into those assessments.
Is
And
that, when you say that, are you meaning that Mr. Miller is not being forthcoming when they're doing the assessments?
yes,
So that's what, when they're doing your assessments to see if I were to consider treatment in lieu of prison, Mr. Miller, what they are reporting back is that you're hiding stuff. You're hiding information and you're trying to make things look nicer than they really are. So that's not a way to start off treatment. I can tell you that for sure. So, I mean, he doesn't have a prior history, right? So he doesn't want to do 2 TDC? Mr. Huffman?
No, Judge, he does not. If the court would do anything besides that, we'd be open. We'd be open to that.
Just for clarification, wasn't that Aliviana? Yes, release, but still inpatient, Carla?
yes,
So-
but I want to find out. I don't want to say something that I'm not sure of, but because this is, I know there's a males Aliviane and females.
Yeah.
I believe the one from this morning was a female.
Right, it was Miss Buenrostro, and she was needing to be released, right? To actually get assessed or screened for Aliviane, and then it would be inpatient. So if there was a process there, I'm trying to possibly stay away from BHRTC because he hasn't had any real prior history.
I would be okay with the Aliviane if it was an option.
But I do get concerned about the window of even having him screened and how quickly we could get him in there. So we can come back on the 20th at 3 p.m. for another probation status hearing with the idea that we're going to get information on, we should probably have him screened for BHRTC anyways, Carla. And if I see another report that you're not being open with these people who are screening you, Mr. Miller, that is going to be a message, a continued message to this court that you are not willing to do your part. And that is going to mean at the very least 2 years in prison. Okay?
Yes.
All right. We'll come back on June 20th, Mr. Huffman.
Judge, could we get some, I mean, in case Mr. Miller's confused, what exactly is he not being upfront about, and what exactly?
This is what is in the case summary. So they recommend that he continue with an MHI caseload, mental health services, and complete and follow the clinical recommendation of TAP. It is also recommended, well, for a status hearing. Note, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'm reading the wrong part. I'm reading Ms. Buenrostros. My apologies. I went over there to check hers. Sorry, scratch all of that. It is, he had a TAP assessment on 6/1 per counselor. He meets that criteria. Client does seem to be minimizing and withholding information regarding his use. That's what it says.
I just don't think his use is that involved. And we're
The complaint when I think the police were called out is that the family really has concerns about his drug use and he was found with a pipe.
Okay.
And I think it said pipe with white residue, if I'm not mistaken. It didn't say pipe with marijuana, so I'm wondering, I'm not sure. I'm not that educated to know why there was
That's
white
not
residue.
marijuana.
Right. So, yeah, but that's why I also was expecting this TAP assessment to tell me something else. And here it's telling me that he's got a cannabis use disorder, moderate. So maybe that's a result of his not sharing information.
I think
He's got a problem. He's got a problem, and that makes all the sense in the world why he blew off probation as soon as he got out. As soon as he got out, he went and started to party and cause his family all kinds of trouble. And that's somebody who can just go to prison, Mr. Miller, Because instead of doing the very basic things or making an effort, you made zero effort. And now I'm having to run circles just trying to figure out what your real problem is because you won't talk and be open with the counselor. That tells me you should just go to prison. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. So we can come back on the 20th. Is that enough time, Carla, to get some information and possibly have him screen for BHRTC?
Yes, Your Honor, as far as BHRTC, if I may, I had already since yesterday reached out to his officer regarding that as well. And the response I received was he was assessed, per assessment, he only meets criteria for the supportive outpatient.
But
Again,
at the same time, they're not getting all the information. So they can go and let's reassess. Let's reassess and get the information on Aliviane. If he doesn't want to talk any more than what we have, I know what I'm going to do. If he wants to tell him what his real problem is, then maybe we can find a solution and maybe their assessment will change. Okay?
And in light of that, Your Honor, if I could just get that violation notice, I can get started on that motion to revoke.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we need it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.